All right, guys. So we have gone through, we have recorded all of our A-roll edits, we have done our visual effects. And so let's go through and I want to show you a few more skills and then show you how to wrap up this project. So for the rest of this, if I'm playing through, now we've done a shortened edit. If we were to go and look at the official music video and see how they tried to integrate all these storylines, first, I like to come over and flip open these extra footage so I can see what some of these other options are. So we've got the Adobe stock we've looked at, Dan Atmosphere, Dan Share. If we go into any one of these and come down and switch to the icon view, we can see this. We've had a fair number of these shots, similar shots already in the main A roll, so I don't feel like I need to necessarily find a bunch of room for it. There's the young Dan Chair storyline, which is interesting. There's some more instruments, so we could always put more of them in if we felt like we needed it. And then, of course, there's the fighting subgenre here. So that with Dolph, we can see getting ready for the fight or his perspective actually punching. And then we can see Dan, kind of the same thing. And as we hover our mouse over these, we see a lot of things. Now, obviously, we can't necessarily use every one of these shots, but what we do want to do is go through and see if there's any in particular that we want to use, figure out how many of these do we need, because it's a whole bunch of clips. So you can see there's lots of different things. So I'm going to show you the approach I would take here. I would go back out to my timeline. And of course, oops, let's go back down. And let's go through and start to think some of this through. So right there, for example, we can see the shot or the starting shot did not happen on the action. So as these shots right here are just, so there's a fist going, but it seems like, boom, something should be landing right there. So if I want to land a boxing shot, boom, where it's somebody's getting rocked, I need to go ahead and I'm going to want to turn on my targeting for this track and turn off the targeting for this multicam source for a second. So now when I hit the X key, is going to mark whatever track is targeted. So here's this clip I want to replace. And I want to replace it with a punch really being landed or maybe a slow-mo sort of fist being thrown. So I'm going to come in and let's look for some here in Dan and Dolph boxing. And I'm going to go to Dan Dolph boxing. Let's see if there's anything in here. And boom. I like the idea of boom, starting off with this punch happening right there. But we could also look for another one and see if there's anything that looks visually interesting. I know that there's somewhere there. Boom. That's interesting as an idea. So I want, boom, that glove hit maybe to, ooh, you know what? I can tell. Here's one where it just gets rocked. Boom. So what I want to do is I'm going to scrub through this. I'm going to find where the action happens. Boom, right as that face is getting hit. I'm going to set my endpoint by hitting the I key. So if I have this selected and hit the endpoint or I, now that sets the endpoint for this clip right there. Boom. So now if I drop this in and match the endpoint, if I pop back over here and I take this clip and I just hit the period key, I don't even have to load it up into my source. I guess it's already there, but it dropped in using that endpoint right into this endpoint and matched it up. Now let's see how this looks. Nice. Now, okay, boom. You see that because I had my endpoint set where the music started, and I set my endpoint right here for that, and by using the X key to mark my in and my out points, I get this punch that just, boom, lands perfectly. Sweet. All right, so now let's go maybe do this for one other. I'm going to turn off the multicam. And so in this case, maybe I want a clap or something to happen right here. So I'm going to hit the X key to mark that. Boom. And let's see if we can find maybe another jab. Boom. So here he's coming up, getting hit on the face. Now, this is the second time. I don't think I want two shots of him getting hit in the face. But let's go see if we can find one where he's maybe winning. Ooh, and actually just had a cool idea. So I wonder what if we, boom, right as that glove is coming up, we set that as the endpoint. I drop it in here. And then this one, we drop that in. Whoops. Make sure I hit the X key to mark my in and my out points. Select this one. I'm going to use the period key to overwrite. Nice. Actually, I think that's the one where I want that dropped in. Boom. So, boom. And I'm not actually thrilled with the way this punch looks, but I think I'm going to go boxing heavy on this. Maybe right there. Select that one, set my endpoint. Hit X, period to overwrite. Let's see if we can find another thing. Gonna come right as this punch lands. Set my endpoint, period mark, and use the overwrite. Nice. All right, so this is coming somewhere, and we can also, if I came in, I was like, oh, you know what? So I'm starting to build a little opening kind of boxing sequence here. If I wanted to chop this up and make a cool little activity here, I'm going to switch to my cut tool with the C key, cut right there, come over right to where this next punch lands, and then maybe do the same thing. Boom, ba, ba. I think I need 3 hits here. I like the idea of starting in out far and moving closer. So maybe I might need to load this up a little bigger to be able to find where that punch lands. Boom. Set my endpoint. Grab this guy. X to mark the spot. And period to overwrite it. Now you're not going to see it. Boom. And then maybe we go in closer. See if we can find a cooler close shot. At this point, I'm just being creative, exploring some different ideas, trying to find what might work for these shots. A little wrestling, haven't really used that. But I could grab another one of this guy punching, of Dolph. X marks the spot, period overwrites. And this last one, X, let's mark the spot. Get them. See if we can find. Yeah, I like it right there where he's dancing, looking happy. Let's see how this looks. Nice. All right, so that's feeling a little more interesting. Again, you can weave in and out some of your different options, but we want those punches to land on the hits. And so we did that by actually scrolling through these, looking for where a punch happened that we wanted. Then we selected it and we used our in and out keys. So we hit the I key, which would set an endpoint. And then we can just drag this around till I see, oh, this one, they didn't actually do anything. But maybe right here, if I wanted this one, you can see that there. Whoop, I'm using J, K, and L to fast forward and rewind, right as that was about to hit the I key to set it. And then when I have a clip marked over here, I can just use the period key, mark it with X, and the period key to overwrite it. All right. Now, so that would be the way we would go through and add B-roll to this project. And if we look back on the instructions, pace of video cut should be less than or equal to 1 second. So you can see a lot of these are shorter than 1 second, but you can certainly go with some that are a little bit longer. I would go through and think about as you look at your initial cut that you did. So here, this multicam clip starts at 7 seconds and 23 frames. And turn back on the targeting here. Down arrow says that this clip is now 7 to 11 seconds. This is a little under 4 seconds. So I need to get a couple more shots in here. So I could come in and, again, the average shot needs to be around 1 second or less. There could certainly be some lines where the person is talking or singing. You want to keep. First base, I'm gonna say. But I probably would not go longer than 2 or 3 seconds on this. And if you're going for something like this, where the song is a little bit more chill, that's a great time to come in and put some shots of maybe this kid that's waking up from a dream. So I come in here, set my endpoint, down arrow, left arrow, set my out point. And let's see if we can find maybe this kid starting to draw. I think we need an establishing shot that there's a kid here drawing before we do anything else. So let's start with an establishing shot of him. And we could load it up in a bigger screen. And I'm going to start there, set my endpoint. I've already got my in and outs, so I'm going to hit the period key over my C. First base, I'm going to say all the words. And in this case, I probably would use 2 shots in that space, one establishing him, and then maybe the next one zooming in a little closer. So let's see how close we would cut that. Base, first. And I feel like it would look better right here. So I'm going to put that right here. First base, So I think maybe just a quick establishing shot of him here. Maybe right there. Let's trim this back. And I'm going to cut in a little closer on him. So down here, I'm going to set my in point, down arrow, left arrow, out point. And let's drop in the kit again.
First things first, I'm gonna say all the words.
And this is cutting a little bit slow, but it's not too bad. Move this a little earlier.
First, I'm gonna
I think we don't need a long shot of him being established, but then maybe him here, and then we actually get closer. I like this, like, closer. Maybe closer? Ooh, that's kind of cool. So let's see if he does any action. Action is always better, so I'm going to scroll through and look for, ooh, let's do this right. What's interesting, hear him closing his eyes and opening them, I think is actually more interesting. I'm going to come here, set my out point, maybe go a little bit earlier where his eyes are open, set my in point, and let's pop over here, and I'm going to overwrite that in. Now, I set that a little bit long.
I'm gonna say all the words inside
But in this
my
case,
head.
I want him to open his eyes up. And in this shot, he only closes them. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to choose speed and duration. And let's set this to reverse speed. Okay. And now reverse speed is actually reverse clip.
All the words inside my head.
Nice. But it's a little slow, so I could either trim off some of this here at the beginning and move that back.
I'm gonna say all the words inside my head.
Except I really want those eyes opening up on the bam.
Yes, I'm gonna say all the words. Yes, I'm gonna say all.
So I think right where he says all is where I want this to happen.
Yes, I'm gonna say all the words inside my.
Nice. And then I could go ahead and just trim this off. It would also be possible, of course, to use my rate stretch tool. If I come up here and switch this to the rate stretch tool, which is hidden underneath the ripple edit tool. So rate stretch, and then I could try time stretching this back until it fits into place. And let's see how that looks now.
Yes, I'm gonna say all the words inside my head.
Nice. So actually using that ended up looking pretty cool. So let's go see what our intro looks like so far. Looks like a few bits I need to clean up there.
First things first, I'm gonna say all the words inside my head.
Nice. All right. So now we would continue like that, building our storyline without reusing a bunch of clips along the way. And one thing I like about this is if I have already used this clip, then I'm careful about not necessarily using it again. But let's say that I did find a shot later in here that I wanted to use this earlier part. I can come to this clip and I can actually create what's called a subclip. If I right click on it and I scroll down to make subclip, you're going to see that it's actually going to create just basically a faux clip that only has those in and out points if you choose this restrict trims to subclip boundaries. But let's say I want to use this part later on. I can always, of course, come back and take this clip and load it in here. So let's say maybe I wanted it and I've already used it. Now I can come over and set a different in and out point and drop that in right there. And that's going to stay distinct and separate from this one that's already been edited. So this is the master clip, and now we're just making sub versions of it. Now, if you actually wanted it to appear as its own clip, this one particular, let's say that there's this one little snippet of a longer clip that you want to use regularly. You right click, we can choose make subclip. It's going to say what you want. I'm just going to leave it called subclip. And it says restrict trims to subclip boundaries, which means you will not be able to access the rest of this. In the subclip, when you hit OK, it makes that little subclip, and it's only that tiny little bit of time. If you scroll back and forth through it or play, it only has access to those few seconds. So anyway, as a result, you can go through and finish building all of your B-roll, and then we are going to walk through wrapping up this project. All right, so let's flip over to our instructions. And so now that we have finished all of the sound effects and you have finished adding your B-roll, hopefully, probably, I imagine that you could easily spend a couple of hours building a nice little B-roll storyline here and using those techniques for setting in and out points and marking where you want it and then dropping them in. Edited music video that you've put time into is definitely going to be worth adding to your portfolio, so I encourage it. Now, the next step, it says we're going to add this overlay PNG to our time frame or a timeline and reframe any cinematic shots or any shots to get a cinematic look. So let's come all the way back up. I'm going to hide everything here. And in the original download of the project, there was this PNG file, this 2.35 to 1 black bars. If you double click on it, you'll notice it loads up. You can't see anything. It's because it's black. So I'm going to take this. Let's just shrink our track down. So Shift plus and minus, shrink our tracks down. And I'm just going to go ahead and load this up into the highest track level above any of my other clips. And then go ahead and select the side and trim it out until it is the length of the whole video. And you'll notice now when you click it, if I turn this on and off, you can see it is a PNG file with black bars on top and bottom, and it lets the middle go through. Now, the only challenge when you're doing this after the fact is if I'm zooming in here, let's shrink this down just a little bit, and I guess that can go down one more level. Let me shrink these audio down because I don't need this very much. Is when I come through here and I look at this, you may find now that there are some shots, like this one, for example, where the tops of their heads are being cut off, but maybe you want that down just a little bit lower and a little more visible. So I'm going to take this boxing clip and, of course, just open up its effect controls, select position, and then reframe that, because now that I've lost the top and the bottom to these black bars, I can actually make this shot look a little bit better and actually reframe. So that's nice, and that I have the ability to reframe this. And if any of these shots does not work with the black bars, like this one, you can tell it's a little probably higher than I would want. So I'm going to select it, select position, and reframe that. And there we go. So that's starting to look better. So anything that needs reframed, or where maybe the actors are no longer positioned properly, we can reframe. Now, here's one other thing that we need to do here with our multicam clip. When we feel like we're in a pretty good place and we don't need to access these multi-camera clips anymore, if I'm playing it right here, then what I like to do is I take my edit. Let's go ahead and find it in here. I'm going to right click on it and choose Reveal Sequence in Project. And you can see it is over here still in these process clips. I usually like to keep my sequences up higher so they're not buried down in a folder. And then I usually will make a folder for sequences. And that way I can keep all of them in one place. Now this multicam edit, I'm going to take and I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate. And I'm going to call this guy MST. So this is going to be the final master multicam edit. Because I've duplicated it, if I double click it and open it up, they look identical. But this multicam edit, I'm going to leave the multicam clip alone. I'm going to go ahead and close it so I don't accidentally open the wrong one. And then I'm going to select all of these video clips, right click on them, and I'm going to go down to multi-camera, flatten. And when you do that, you see all of those clips are now turned into regular clips that you can treat like a regular clip. You can affect their position and scale, and it's no longer referencing the multi-camera specialized clip that has lots of other nested audio or video clips in it. So I'm going to make sure I'm working on my multicam edit. This one has been flattened, but if I go back and I realize, oh shoot, I needed to change something in that, I could always reopen the multicam edit and have the unflattened multi-camera tracks. All right, so now we've added this, and let's go look at the instructions. We need to add a small gray title over and use the number and bold and underline name from step 6 so I can visually identify each. And then take a whole screen screenshot showing your effect controls, window, timeline clips, and any masks for all effects. So let's go through and do this. So we're going to let's go to the first one, or I'm just going to go show one example here. So for every one of these, let's take this, which is steps 2 and 3. Yeah, the blend mode and title. So I'm just going to maybe put them one right after the other. I'm going to come in. I need to move this black bars up one level so I can put a title in here. My window, essential graphics. And I'm just going to use a basic title. So if you don't see one at the top, just search for basic. Find your basic title. I'm going to drag it in here and put it in underneath or over the clip. And my snapping is turned off, so turn on the magnet. There we go. All right, so now that I've got this here, I'm going to take that and let's select the thing, and I'm going to change this and name it and then Premiere is going to crash. Perfect. So hopefully we have an autosave that we can access here in just a second to get back to this point, but we'll use, if you have Premiere crash, we should have autosaves. So I'm going to stop the recording for a second. All right, so we're back up and running. I have put a little title over the top of this, and now I just need to make titles for this section, which was blend modes here around 3 seconds. So open up my essential graphics, select my your title here. Let's edit the title that I've got here. Let's select it. I'm going to call this number 2 blend mode. 2 blend modes. Okay, and then I'm going to grab the little controls right here. And that's interesting. It's not moving. Let's try this one more time. I'm going to select the whole clip, come up to its transform. There we go. And I can grab this and drag this down. I'm just going to drag these little controls. I don't want to animate it, but I'm going to put this down here until it is, I see the problem. Do you see how the title is underneath the black bars? So I'm going to just keep moving this till it's all the way down there. Looks like about 1,000 or so. We'll put it there. But then I need to put my title above my blend mode, or not my blend mode, but my black bars. I put this title right there. I'm using Option up and down arrow to put it in place. And now let's see, there it goes. So now when this comes up, I will be able to see it and know, okay, I can see that they did their blend modes. So now I'm going to just use the same clip, cut it off, and Option drag. So you hold your Option key down and drag the clip. And that way it stays in the right place. And for this next one, it is 03 title. Okay, so I'm going to double click on that one until the text is selected, and then call it 3 title. So now this one, blend modes. Nice. All right. And so we would go through and do that for the next. So at 22 seconds, the echo effect, or more blend modes at 36. So the best way to do this, I don't know if in this session I've got that, but I'm going to just zoom out, grab my little title, select it, and either copy and paste it later, or you can hold the Option key down and drag over to that next place. That'll give you a unique copy of it. And then just zoom in, select the text, and change that title. All right, so now we've done that. So we've added our overlay. We've added a small gray text title. We've used the number and bolded and underlined the name. So you're going to go through and do that for all 8. And then take a whole screen screenshot showing your effect controls for all 8 effects. So that means I'm going to go through, find the effects. Let's go back just to that example here, number 2 and number 3. And I'm going to zoom out here and get to where I've got that selected. I'm going to choose my a clip where I can see what happened here. So I can see both the title, or I can see that I've used the blend mode. So this is the blend modes. So with that one selected, I'm going to Shift Command 3, which is going to screenshot this whole thing. I'm going to go to the next one. The next one is a title. So I'm actually going to select my title so I can see the title information and controls on the screen. Shift Command 3. There we go. So for all 8 of the effects that you did, you're going to go and grab a screenshot so I can see at a glance what you did. So let's see if we can find any more. There's several more over here. So I'll come into this one, about 36 seconds. We've got the blend modes here. So we need more blend modes. So I'm going to select maybe this clip so I can see the blend modes happening. Okay, Shift Command 3. There's a screenshot. Maybe grab this other one. In this case, we're seeing what has happened here, but this clip at the bottom, I can see the scale and positioning, and there we go. So I can see what I've done there. I've collected my 8 screenshots. And then we need to finally export our video. So now with this, we're going to just go do our same as usual. So export, and I'm going to give it a useful name, 2450, last name, first name, project 5, I think I forgot for your semester, but I'm going to say Multicam. Make sure it's high quality, 1080p, H.264 because it's most compatible, and I'm going to choose entire source so the entire video is played through. And I'm going to click and just drag through and make sure that the whole video is there, and then I'm ready to export. So that's going to go export my clip. Now you're going to, there's the name. So 2450, last name, first name, music video. You know what? I think we've been calling it Multicam, but either way, this is just so you have a proper name to be able to find it. And then upload the master video, project file, screenshots, and of course, your final video. All right, so don't forget to include the project file, but that is going to get you through finishing up the project and should be in a good space, ready to move on into the final project. And looking forward to seeing you guys after Thanksgiving break.